Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Of course, you know that because you've probably watched my videos a few times before. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for giving me a chance here. You're likely going to learn a thing or two here today, so that's kind of the goal for me, to make sure to help educate you on best practice. But just know that we're looking here today at new kind of network, NKN. I'm just going to give you my best, best practice, best advice, and obviously kind of take a look and see if we can kind of predict where this is going to head, of course, in the near future. Now, big picture, I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research at all times, take ownership of your own trades. And if you need help with that kind of thing, I can help you with that, of course, because I have a signal group that I have to my community members, or for my community members, of course. What we do is I share all of my trades with my members, and we make sure to learn and grow together. Okay, so that's of interest to you. Check that out in your own time, of course. But I just send signals on entry points, stop targets, and take profit targets, of course, to make sure that you know how to get in the trade, how to get out of it successfully. And I have about an 80% overall success rate so far in the last month and a half. It's been going pretty well so far. Nonetheless, check that out in your own time. That's not what I'm here. We're here to check out the charts, and why don't we go ahead and do that? Without further ado, let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at new kind of network, NKN. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline of the market, so we know exactly what's going on before we jump in, right? So that's the whole point, is to make sure we have a well-informed understanding of the market before we take entry, because any good trader will essentially make sure they know all the angles, right? So that's why I like to look at it, because it's always fared well and helped me out a lot to know where Bitcoin is trending, and even peaking a little bit quickly at Ethereum as well. Okay, so just to preface, I do use TradingView.com, recommend the paid versions just because they are superior in the sense that you get more than 2 indicators at a time, and I feel like you need multiple indicators overall, preferably 2 per time frame. I'll explain more as we go along here, but generally speaking, this is the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. And what we're looking at is essentially, again, the moving averages. That's what we wanted to look at first, right? So the moving averages on the 4-hour chart are probably the most effective. The industry leaders are using these, so we need to as well. And just keep in mind that the 50 is this orange line here. That's working as a potential support level. And so is the 200, of course, just trailing down much further behind. But notoriously, the 50-day simple moving average is works as a pretty strong support and resistance level. So right now, hopefully, we can keep it as a continuous support, and it keeps the price driving up. So we can go ahead and get back up to 46,000 plus. Okay. Right now, I also marked this as well. We've got a support at about 44,200. We've got 2 candlesticks recently here in the last 12 to 16 hours that have closed above that line, as well as the fact that we have a major resistance at about 46,500, and of course we have a support down here at 42,500. So between 42.5 and 46.5 is essentially the range right now, whereas we're in the upper quadrant for the moment, and it could drop down below, of course. We don't know. We'll see what happens here soon. But all in all, Bitcoin isn't in bad shape. In fact, if we look at the 15, just to quickly peek here, you can kind of see that the price is essentially working its way back up, trying to come up above this support level here. Okay. Now moving on to Ethereum, just taking a quick peek here as well. Very much the same thing. You can pretty much just repeat exactly what I just said about Bitcoin regarding Ethereum. Only different support and resistance levels. We got a support at about 2,900, another secondary support at 2,400, and just note as well, we've got this major resistance at about 3,600. Okay, so that'll potentially be an issue eventually, but for right now, we'll just worry about the price bouncing off the 50 in hopes of it continuing upwards, as well as what we saw in Bitcoin. All right, moving on to NKN. So what we're looking at here is just the 1-day chart first, and we'll work our way down. I like to identify the average true range of this coin first before we move on. And just something to note, right before the major Bitcoin sell-off on the 17th, which is right here, NKN ramped up significantly in that was maybe about a week's progress. In 1 week, it might even be just say 6 trading days, we had an increase of 626%. That's crazy. It went from 20 cents upwards of $1.48, $1.50. So obviously a lot of growth there. That's why this retracement is so significant. Anytime you have an increase that much in that short amount of time, it'll retrace probably about 50-60% of the original volume, or the original starting point rather. So if we go from here to there, kind of split the difference, that puts us at like 75 cents roughly, or just say 80 as a round estimate. That would be, I would say, its average true range, right? That's roughly where it should be based on where the market is at, because it had to come back down here. right? So let's say 75 to 80 cents is its average true range, and the price right now is about 40. So it's halfway to its potential goal, right? Because when the average range of NKN was at 75 to 80 cents, Bitcoin was at 59, 64,000 range, right? In that time frame. So we got to understand that that is relevant, right? So if we get back to that point for Bitcoin, which could very well be likely, considering we just tested 46,000 recently, I think there's a strong likelihood if we break 50,000, NKN will really take off. Okay, now it took off recently here, of course, just based on the fact that it's been held down for too long that it needed to. Also note too, it broke through the 200-day simple moving average. As you can see, that worked as a resistance for 2 days straight, and then the third day, the shorts got squeezed out and the price ramped up. So it's kind of just doing its thing right now. That's pretty standard for a lot of altcoins that just kind of eventually just kind of get sick and tired of being held down for too long and they just take off. There could be some fundamentals too, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of fundamental catalysts that cause the price to action to do what it just did. However, this appears to be a continuation of that or just more good news. However you look at it, it's that we're in good shape here. Even though we're up over 70 on the RSI, it's still a position where the price should continue to go either sideways for a short while or maybe take another ramp up here in a couple more days. But as you can see, this MACD ever since the 27th just been shooting straight up. So things have been looking pretty good for NKN, all things considered. I don't think we're going to see it down the 15 to 20 cent range anytime soon. It will definitely continue up. Let's see if we can identify any major support and resistance levels. So it looks like 50, somewhere around between 50 and 52 cents. We can go with just say 53. Because that looks like, yeah, it was kind of held down there a few times. Yeah. Let's go right here. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and make sure that we honor that resistance level at about 53 cents because it is definitely going to get tested soon, I feel. And if so, there's a chance it'll probably reject. All right, so moving on to the 4-hour chart. Taking a look here, of course, we can see the price action, strong ramp up, of course, a major catalyst. Bunch of shorts got squeezed out there, probably right around 32, 33 cents. And again, that's where the 200-day simple moving average was holding. So that's what happened there, of course, got squeezed out, price ramped up, had to retrace back down. Again, as you can see, this retracement is down about 50% approximately, consolidated, and then just ramped up again here recently. So all in all, good news here. I like the way I see this here. This is fantastic because even though it did retrace, of course, it had time to recover. About 24 to 48 hours later, it jumps back up again. So that's good. It is trying to test this level about 44 cents. So we'll see if 44 gets broken. Looking at the RSI, we are under 70 now, which is fantastic. More room for growth, as well as the fact that we got a convergence here. Another convergence at 5 o'clock. So let's just go ahead and mark that really quick. And I like to mark the convergence as a rough estimate just so we can kind of see what that looks like on the 1-hour chart. So if you're new to the channel, I use the Ishimoku cloud on the 1-hour chart. It's a very good indicator because it really helps us understand specifically, support levels, but also where the price action is trending. In other words, when the price is above, it's considered a buy signal. So had you bought back here, it would have been awesome. Obviously, easier said than done, of course, but that's generally the concept for the cloud. And then furthermore here as well, I already pretty much marked it. That's almost exactly, that's right, the 4-hour convergence I'd mentioned, where we marked that there, basically giving us a long consideration for for a swing trade. And if you look here, you can see the price is, yes, it was jumping up and down above the cloud, but once it broke above, right, the same exact time, it decided it wanted to continue upwards. Okay, so when the price is above the cloud, considered a buy signal. When it's below the cloud, considered a sell signal. Okay, so just try to remember that. Now that we're above the cloud, of course, doesn't mean you just jump right in, but the bottom line here is that you try to catch it as soon as it breaks through the cloud and it stays above for maybe say an hour or two. Okay. Furthermore, we're going to look at the TD sequential here. I like this on the 1-hour chart because it helps me identify, times in which there's market exhaustion. Now, as we can see here, it counted up from 1 to 7 and got reset. So that means there's a good chance we might see another potentially, 5 to 7 hours worth of retracement before we see the price come back up again. Again, it's not a guarantee, but commonly you'll see this counting up from 1 to 9. If you look at this here, just say, for example, when it retraced originally, or before it retraced, look at this here. We saw a 9 right here in TD sequential, also on the cloud, right? So if you look at the cloud here, boom, that 9 pretty much expired right as soon as the price broke above the cloud. Okay, and then we also got that 4-hour convergence signaling us as well. So we got like 3 things telling us to take entry right here at this point. That was like the perfect storm. But the bottom line here is that TD Sequential, when you look at it, when you got a 9, it's supposed to retrace after that. Right now, a lot of times on bull runs like this here, it continued upwards and then shot up significantly. And you see it didn't reset for at least 12 hours afterwards. But when it did reset to a 1, it keeps going up and down in the state of consolidation, but once it starts getting its momentum and it has this bearish momentum, it comes all the way down to a 9, resets, and starts counting up from 1 all the way up to a 9. Then it goes up, and you can kind of see the pattern here. As soon as it hits a 9, there's commonly a reversal that occurs. So again, it's not exact science, but it is more often than not when you see a 9, it'll likely turn around soon, or it'll be close to turning around. It'll be kind of in a state of exhaustion where the bulls or the bears have been pushing so hard for so long, a good 9 hours on the 1-hour chart, or I would say maybe 2 or 3 days on the 4-hour chart, then it usually tends to reverse. Okay, so right now with what we see here, again, we might have a good 5 to 7 hours worth of retracement. Just something to pay attention to. It can just continue to go sideways because honestly, the fact that it went up and down 50%, now it consolidated and went up again, it'll probably only retrace somewhere in the range of I'd say 40 cents would probably be the lowest point in which it'll retrace to. In fact, that kind of looks like a little bit of a support there. Let's go ahead and mark 40 cents. So I'm willing to guess the price comes down, it'll bounce off of 40 cents here because we saw it get tested multiple times in the past and rejected. Now it's above, it considers a support. Therefore, we should expect to see the price bounce off that if it comes that low. Looking at the 15, let's go ahead and just take a quick peek here at the 15. And just something to note here, of course, is the EMA VWAP notification. This is an indication that I have that I share with my patrons. Also, bear in mind, everything you're learning here today, I use this day in and day out when I trade every week. And I share my trades with my patrons. So make sure to check that out in your own time, of course. But what I'm wanting to get out here is the simple fact that I utilize the EMA and VWAP notification in my trading. In other words, it'll notify me when I have confirmation. You see these little yellow up arrows there? That's basically telling me we have confirmation above EMA and VWAP. They're all over the place here. Again, they can give you some false signals, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect either. But the benefit is the fact that we're waiting for the price to get above EMA, right? Because EMA is kind of a momentous indicator. It's telling us the momentum is moving in the the trend of either the bulls or the bears, right? The price is above EMA, considered bullish, under, considered bearish. And as you can see here, when the price is moving up, it keeps getting rejected, right? Keeps sticking and staying above. Even though it comes down for that little bit, it comes back up, right? That's okay, that's completely normal. So just something to understand, when the price is above EMA, it's considered bullish. Where it's under, it's considered bearish. You can see all sorts of examples like that. If you look right here, see how I dropped under it, we lost EMA and VWAP. The price held down for quite some time as a bearish momentous trend. But in this example here, we can see the bulls are in control. Furthermore, we got the VWAP line. That's this blue line here. So if you see this blue line, what that does, that basically tells us that the price being above the blue line, it's considered a support, right? Now, if you're unfamiliar with the VWAP, it's a day trader's tool. It's only used on the 50-minute chart or lower. And what it does, it's helpful for identifying support and resistance levels. In other words, it's continuous with the price. And what it does, it takes the volume in the last 24 hours, expresses it as a price. So it's one of my favorite tools, and not a lot of people use it, and I think it's underrated, or undervalued more so, and it is very, very well rated. But the bottom line is that it's consistent with the price action, so it resets every 24 hours. And at 5 o'clock, which we see right here, it has to find its zero ground because the standard deviation gets too far away and it has to reset. It's more of a traditional trading indicator for trading days, Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's essentially what the trading cycle should look like. But at 5 o'clock, it resets when the post market closes. Regardless, you don't need to know all that. The bottom line here is that the VWAP is considered a support level or resistance level. When the price is above, it's working as a support. Below, it works as a resistance. So as you can see here in this little run, it's been above the entire time. Yes, it broke below, but it came back above. What I want to get at here is the fact that you want to look for confirmation. So above the VWAP line is considered confirmation, and below is considered non-confirmation. So in this case, we got the price above VWAP. Yes, price is over EMA, also good. And obviously, if you look back here as well, we've got 2 green candlesticks closing. So this is basically a full confirmation for me. So I'd consider taking entry here, here, or here. I would have taken entry in one of those 3 places. And the reason why is because you have confirmation the bulls are in control. They're still taking control because the price is over EMA, price is over VWAP, and you've got 30 minutes of constant bullish momentum. To me, that's kind of a win-win. If you look at all the other indicators too, of course, work your way down from the one-day chart here, then you're going to be in much better shape. So those are just things that I like to look at because it's really helpful to know that. So when you try to consider taking entry, right now we can see the price is obviously under EMA. It's not recommended to take entry. But what would be advantageous is to consider taking entry when the price comes down, bounces off the support level of 40 cents, and then stays above EMA for at least 30 minutes. Okay. Again, you got to be kind of patient with this stuff. I'm more of a patient trader myself, so it works well for me. Some people like to just jump in and jump out. Not maybe the best indicator for you, but you have to learn to be patient. You got to steel yourself and make sure that you are careful and cautious and smart about your entry points, because if you just jump in willy-nilly, I hear terror stories from some of my subscribers of how they just got wrecked because they just they forget to look, or they don't bother to analyze the charts before they jump in. They go on a feeling. Feelings should not be in trading, okay? It's pure logic, it's pure facts, right? Don't take emotion into the equation, get rid of it. It's easier said than done, I recognize that, because we're investing our hard-earned money here. But if you can kind of calm down and pump the brakes for a little bit, you're going to be in much better shape. You'll be happy you didn't jump in. Furthermore, if you want to jump in with confidence, I have an 80% success rate. Link in the description below. You can feel free to support me on Patreon. And I can tell you that I share all my trades with my community members. I send out my signals. I share everything that you need to know about your entry. I try to help educate you and make sure you know why I took entry as well, because there's usually always a reason. I don't just look at the charts and say, oh, it's great. I do what I do here today and utilize that every single day in my trades. All right. Now, bear in mind, I don't take trades every single day because I'm patient. I want to make sure to find the right entry point. Okay. But regardless, check that out in your own time. Just wanted to let you know that as an option, of course, if you like to kind of, follow along and, trade the way I trade. Either way, I do want to thank you so much for joining me here today. This is really all I have here. Oh, one last thing. I apologize. The prediction. Let's get back to that. Based on the momentum here we're at, I would say within about a week's time, we'll probably be testing this support or resistance level. Current resistance at about 53 cents. And within about a week or two, probably even sooner, based on the fact that Bitcoin does seem like it wants to stay above, 45,000, 44,000 range. And if we can get it back in the 45 to 46 range and break 46,000, we'll be in very, very good shape to essentially have the bullish trend back on track. And in that case, NKN will take off, because obviously NKN did very well here recently when Bitcoin was over 46,000. Keep that in mind. So yeah, that's my consideration here for NKN. Year end, I would say that it's probably not going to get any higher than 75 cents. Again, just based on the fact that Bitcoin, depending on how Bitcoin does, we won't really know. If Bitcoin does hit 100,000, then sure, NKN will probably match or beat its previous all-time high. But if 100,000 isn't realistic and all we get is 50, 60,000 out of this bull run from Bitcoin, then I think that we're going to probably see NKN top out somewhere in the 50 to 70 cent range, somewhere in that range. Again, its average true range is somewhere it's going to come back to, because again, Bitcoin did very well. And when Bitcoin was doing well, NKN did well also. So don't forget that. All right, anyways, that's enough rambling. Hope you understand and benefit from this. If you do, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a good one.